you had some success with keto, but you're hitting a little bit of a slump. You just need to kind of kickstart, reignite that fat loss again. You need to reignite the weight loss that you had in the beginning of keto. Maybe you haven't completely hit a standstill, but it's not doing what it used to do. I have 3 very simple things that you can apply right now, like right as soon as this video is over. I'm gonna give you the mechanisms, I'm gonna give you the science, because that's what I do in this channel. But hopefully you can just take the takeaways, apply them to your life, and get the most out of it. Let's break it down. This first one is one that gets overlooked so much and is such a quick fix. And a lot of it comes down to kind of the psychological piece, okay? And that is make sure you are adding salt, okay? When you are doing keto, you become a lot more deficient in sodium much faster than the next guy. Okay, what does this have to do with fat loss? What does this have to do with weight loss? Well, a lot of it is psychological and how it works, okay? But we do have to remember, okay, when you're on keto, lower levels of insulin force you to lose more sodium, okay? So it's easier to become deficient. But what does that have to do with hunger? Well, take a look at this data, okay? There was an interesting study. Took a look at how rats responded to things when they were craving salt, okay? So it was published in the journal Current Biology. It took a look at rats that were deficient in sodium and rats that were not, okay? And it gave them a hypertonic solution. So it gave them high amounts of concentrated salt water. Okay, the rats that had normal levels of sodium, when they consumed the salt water, they acted repulsed. They wanted nothing to do with it, like no appetite for it whatsoever. There was a little lever that they could administer more for themselves. They tried to bury the lever. They tried to like kick it and get rid of it. They acted like out of disgust, the lever, like I want nothing to do with that salt water. On the contrary, the rats that craved salt, they embraced it. They showed signs of enjoying the salt water. They consumed it. They were licking the lever and trying to get it to produce more and administer more. Now, that may seem somewhat obvious. You crave salt, you're gonna like salt. But what's interesting is how it affects our brain in terms of cravings. Now, one of the reasons you may not be having the success you want on the keto diet now could be because maybe you're just munching a little bit more. Maybe you're hungrier than you used to be. Okay, so here's what's going on. Angiotensin II, which elevates when you are a little bit low in sodium, can also act as a neurotransmitter. So what it does is it travels to the brain and it triggers the brain to trigger more hunger and thirst, okay? So what ends up happening? You crave things. So you're hungry even when you're not really hungry, you just want salt. Now, in essence, it's gonna try to get you to crave salt, okay? But we all know the deal. If you crave salt, what are you gonna go consume? You're on keto, you're probably gonna go consume a handful of nuts or something, right? So you're gonna end up having 300-400 calories coming in from cashews because they have a little bit of salt on them, okay? That's just kind of the realistic thing that's gonna happen here, okay? The other thing you have to equate is that it's also gonna trigger thirst, okay? So you might end up drinking water and adding more water into the mix, further diluting yourself and actually making it so your sodium levels are a little bit lower. What's really important to remember is we have a region of the brain that's called the mesolimbic dopamine system. This mesolimbic dopamine system converts a sense into an action. Okay, so when it receives the sense, your brain receives the sense from angiotensin II, okay, and NST receptor, NST neurons are inhibited, all this kind of stuff. Your body wants to take an action. Your brain is commanding that you take an action to get a reward in that mesolimbic dopamine system. So you go out and you start craving things. And in that dopamine system, you could be craving sugary things, when in reality, it's just been triggered by the salt need. Okay, we have an inherent need for salt. So practically, what you can consider doing is adding some bone broth along with your meals. Like simply do that. Like each time you have a meal, be like, I'm just gonna add some bone broth. You could simple electrolytes, that makes it easy. You could simply add a little bit of salt to your food. It doesn't take a whole lot, but it's not a quick fix, it's a continued habit, okay? So if your issue is craving things, then yeah, you probably do want to add that into the mix, and you'd be surprised. One of the things that you can do whenever you have a craving, take a tiny bit of salt and just put it in your mouth, put a little bit on your tongue. It's pretty wild what it does, how it immediately satisfies a portion of your brain. You can almost feel it. Okay, this next one that I want to talk about is you're probably snacking in between meals, and I have a solution. I'm not just going to tell you to just eliminate the snacks, okay? I understand, like I like snacks, and realistically snack foods on keto are pretty darn good, and I usually want to allocate some space for them, okay? So I'm not opposed to you having some good fat bombs and some good enjoyable treats and some jerky and some beef sticks and things now and then. But what you should consider doing is adding your snacks to your actual meal. Okay, cut down a little bit of maybe the almond butter with your chicken meal or whatever you're doing, right? Or maybe get the cheese off of your lettuce wrap burger this time so that you have an extra 200 calories to spare for that keto treat that you want, and you have it with the meal, right? It seems weird to have a snack with a meal, but a snack in very essence, like we want to have it as a snack. But the snack foods is usually what we want. So what I'll do is, okay, with dinner, if I wanted to have a snack after dinner, I will just add that snack to my dinner and have it as one larger chunk. Why do I do this? Well, because with keto especially, it really is about keeping insulin levels stable and low. And every time that you snack, even if it's in between meals, you are triggering an insulin response, which is potentially slowing down what's called ketogenesis, the formation of ketones. And it could impair fat loss a little bit. Now, if it keeps you adhering to the diet, I get it, okay? But that's exactly why I'm saying if we just shuffle it and have it along with the meal, and that way you have clear defined breaks in between your meals, it could work really well. And this has been something that I've used on countless people that have run into this issue. Okay, they want to have snacks, they keep going back to snacks. It makes a big difference. Plus, who doesn't want to have the keto bars every now and then, or have something that's delicious? Anyhow, something I definitely recommend, and it makes a big difference in that insulin glucagon response for fat loss. Today's video sponsor, by the way, speaking of keto snacks, is Thrive Market. So if you are on keto and you're looking for different things to add to your diet, maybe you want some variety, maybe you're getting bored and you're starting to nibble on carbs now and then, I would recommend you check them out. I put a link down below in the description. You can sort by keto there. So you can go through any kind of diet category, keto, paleo, whatever. Okay, and from there you can sort by snacks, you can sort by baked goods, all kinds of stuff, baking mixes, everything that's gonna be in the keto category. So all in one place, and then you click a few buttons and it's on your doorstep in a couple of days. So that link down below is going to get you 25% off your first order plus a free gift. And that's simply because they are a sponsor on this channel and they're giving back to our subscribers, which is awesome. And a big thank you to Thrive Market for making this happen. So that link's down below. The third one is one that I've started experimenting with. And let me first say, I am not against erythritol, and I'm not against occasional sugar alcohols, and I'm not even against monk fruit and stevia. I'm not against any of that stuff, really. But in the evening time, I have found that consuming those kinds of things tend to get me to eat more, okay? And I think there is somewhat of a cephalic insulin response, which means that maybe there's a little bit of an insulin release that comes from those kinds of things. But I think more than anything, just along the same lines as the salt, it is triggering sort of a hunger response. And one of the worst things that you can do for your weight loss is load up on calories in the evening time. Okay, A, you're sedentary. B, you don't have the ability to deal with any glucose that does come in as well. Like you end up having poor glucose disposal because you're not working, you're not moving, you're not actually letting those muscles do their job. Not saying you're going to be consuming glucose, but still kind of the case is still there. Okay, so if you're consuming a bunch of baked goods and keto sweets and all that stuff, you are better off having them a little bit earlier in the day, okay? And the reason that I say that is simply because you can get away with having more calories earlier in the day because A, you're gonna burn them, but B, the glucose disposal is better, and it's going to make it so you don't have more intense cravings at night when you are less able to deal with those cravings. When you're mentally fatigued at the end of the day and you start having cravings and you want to munch on things, you're going to make bad decisions. I don't care who you are. You mentally don't have the stamina and you don't have the fortitude and the willpower, okay? So anything that's going to trigger that taste response to get you to eat more really should be allocated towards the earlier part of the day. And again, I'm not saying don't enjoy the keto sweet treats now and then. I'm not saying don't have erythritol. I have no problem with it whatsoever. I just found in my experience with weight loss that, and even now just with maintenance, that if I have those sweet things, those sugar alcohols in the evening time, it just opens the floodgates for me, even psychologically, not just through my palate, but psychologically to start eating more of those sweet things. And next thing you know, I'm at 2,500 calories with dinner, and then all of a sudden I've had 700 calories in keto treats. Because remember, any little bit of food that you have that's got a lot of fat in it is going to be calorically dense. Okay, you have a little bit of that keto chocolate, it tastes delicious, but guess what? Look at the calories on it. There's probably 210 calories in a serving. That adds up very quick. So if you take all three of these things, they are very simple life hacks, if you want to call them that, to get more out of keto. Add salt, sip on broth, consume little bits of salt, have some salt when you have a craving. Okay, obviously keep the carbs and keep the things to a minimum in the evening, but keep the sugar alcohols, keep the sweets and all that stuff to a minimum in the evening. And then, of course, also make sure that you're having your snacks with your meals rather than in between, so you don't open up the floodgates there too. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.